Right. Welcome to the another session of awareness hours. As we are going through these sessions, I will again take two or three questions today, and the remaining questions will be taken next week or in the next session, whenever it is. Uh, Change of location for me for summer time. Okay, so let's start with today's questions. First question is about how to use your daily routine life as a medium of dissolving your ego or yourself. Questioner is asking like if we want to dissolve our ego, and okay, someone is not having much time of spiritual pursuits and all, then how his daily life can help him in dissolving his ego. That's what I understood. That's what the purpose of this question would be, highest purpose, that going through your daily life also, how can you like dissolve your ego. So there are two parts to it, if we understand. First is like uh, first is finding out what you want to actually do in your daily life. Okay, like today, what is my plan? What is what I am planning to do in my daily life? I should plan as best I can. I should prepare myself as best as I can, and I should go for it as with my best possibility ever. Okay, this is the way. Now, after putting my best effort, after exhausting all my energy, if results are not as per my expectations, if results are not as per what I was thinking about, then it should dissolve my ego. Then it should make me realize that someone else is running the show. I am not running the show because I tried my level best. Okay, I tried to go through the whole process, planning, execution, everything with my level best ability. I did it, but that thing didn't work out. Okay, that thing didn't work out. So this not working out must dissolve your ego, that your egoistic efforts are not that important. They are important, but they are not that important. As important is universal will. Okay, as important is God's grace. So this is the situation with dissolving ego. Now, why I said that go through this process diligently, because it can also happen that someone is not even trying, someone is not even preparing or planning, someone is not even putting any effort. Okay, now that person obviously cannot expect things happening as per his wish. Okay, so if things are not happening as per his wish, he knows that he didn't put much of effort. So then it may not dissolve his ego. He is anyways not putting any effort. The other person who is trying his level best, who exhausted himself in preparing, planning, execution, putting his best effort, everything, he exhausted himself. That person, if he doesn't get results as per his planning and all, obviously he will have this feeling that okay, my egoistic efforts are not that important. God's grace or God's will or universal will is more important. So this is the way to dissolve your ego without even going through any like spiritual pursuits or like meditation and all, just by going through your daily life. But the importance is that you must put your best effort. You must exhaust your ego first of all. Okay, you must exhaust. Then you will realize that okay, fine. My egoistic efforts were not that important. It would help you in dissolving your ego. Okay, this is one of the simplest thing you can do in your daily life. Suppose there is a sports person, okay, and a very important match is going on, and he has tried his level best. He has tried his level best to achieve success in that game, okay, but in the end he ended up in losing side in that game, okay. Or suppose there is an actor, there is a movie actor, and he act many a times we see that people do their best work in a flop movie, in a movie which didn't get the success. Work was great, acting was great, but movie overall was not as liked by people. So that person should realize that okay, fine, my efforts were not that important. Universal wish was more important. Someone else is running the show, as I always say. Okay, some other energy is running the show. That energy is that energy's wish is more important than our individual wish. That should dissolve the ego. uh, Keeping motivated. Second question, the questioner asks, how do you keep yourself motivated during difficult times? No, I don't keep myself motivated. For me there is no difficult time. For me there is nothing like difficult time. Like even right now I have some illnesses going on, but even then those illnesses I take as my destiny to go through, or universal wish. Okay, I don't find the need to motivate myself. Why? Everything is being taken care by the universe. Why I need to motivate? Motivation is again for doing something. Okay, that I want to achieve that, or I want to achieve this. For this I need motivation. Here I don't want to achieve anything, so why to motivate? Just flow. Okay, as Nanak said, float, don't swim. So I am not swimming at all. I am just floating as things go by. For me there is no difficult time. For me there is no good time or bad time. Every time is God's wish. Okay, like understand it like this. This thing in Sanskrit we have this verse, Sarve bhavantu sukhina sarve santu niramaya. That means everyone should be happy, and everyone should be healthy. Now the problem is that if everyone is healthy, how everyone should be happy? Because how doctors will be happy? If everyone is healthy and they are not going to doctors and hospitals and all, how doctors can be happy? So for doctors happiness, then this ill health is also necessary. Okay, so everything is in universal plan, right? So illnesses are also important. They make us realize the importance of good health. They make us realize that what type of work we can do when we are healthy and all. Okay, poverty is also important because it makes us realize the importance of money. Other things are also important. Good, bad, nothing. It is our perspective. Okay, we have made this distinction. For universe everything is there. Day is also necessary, night is also necessary, right? Good times are also necessary, difficult times are also necessary. So, and nobody learns better lessons in life than a person who is going through a difficult time. Okay, so I feel that they are part of our life, and there is no need to especially motivate myself to go through a difficult time. Even that time is God's wish. It is God's grace. God wants me to teach some lessons through that difficult time. Okay, so that is, if you call it a motivation, then you can call it motivation, but I don't feel it is just the natural way of living. And the third question is, why did Swarabhanu? It is like astrological question, but it is very much relevant in this time period, in any time period actually, and because many people have these questions. Uh, and during my classes also on astrology, this question was asked many a times by a few people. So I hope this is going to be helpful for all of them. It is like when churning of ocean was going on, and Swarabhanu, this demon, disguised himself as a god and sat into the group of the god to have the nectar of immortality. And he eventually had the nectar of immortality and he became immortal, although Lord Vishnu cut his head off, divine disc. So he's cut his head off, but he has become immortal. So that is where Rahu and Ketu come into existence. Rahu is the head portion, Ketu is the rest of the body. And this is the questioner is asking, that okay, if Lord Vishnu is like a divine energy, God and all, why he allowed Swarabhanu, a demon, to have nectar of immortality? Similar question was asked to me recently by someone, one of my friend, that there are many references in many religious texts that okay, fine, if this demon worship that god and got this boon, this demon worship that god and got that boon. So the question, the person asked that okay, are the gods really that knave that they cannot understand that they are giving boon to a demon who is going to misutilize the boon? So it is not about them being knave or demon being strong. This is my response. Or the demon being like smart, clever, nothing like that. It is just the law of karma. Okay, understand? Even if a demon is doing some spiritual pursuits, understand it like this. These stories, what they say, that even if a demon pursues something spiritually, even if demon puts some efforts into spiritual life and meditates and do other spiritual pursuits, then universe is bound to respond. Even to a demon, universe is bound to respond. He has done some karma, he must get its result. Okay, it is not that God is knave. Okay, God will create any other ways to deal with that boon also, which God is giving, because eventually God is giving. So God knows that okay, I have given this boon, I have some other ways to deal with this boon also. Okay, but at the moment that person has put his whole effort, at the moment that demon is putting his best effort in his penance and in his meditation, anything, whatever he has done, he must get his result. Okay, likewise in this story of Swarabhanu, what happened, that Swarabhanu took all the effort. Okay, for every karma there is a result, for every action there is a reaction, right? Every karma, for every action there will be a result. He has done all the karma, he has disguised himself, he has taken the risk, he has disguised himself and sat into the group of the god. He has managed to get the hold of nectar of immortality. He must get the result of it. Okay, for every action there is a result available. Okay, these stories only show that even when even a demon can get results of his karma, then why not you? If you put your best effort, you are in better position than demon. Why can't you get better results of your actions? If God can give boon to even demon, why it God won't help you, won't support you in your pursuits? So this is the main gist or main message around these stories. Whenever we hear these stories that okay, this demon got this boon from God and all that, and it created trouble for other people. This is the main thing, that even demon can will get a result of his karma. Okay, so we will obviously get the result of karma if we put any karma. So the main purpose of these stories is to get you engaged in some activity, some actions, some pursuits. Okay, so that you can also get the result of your karma. Okay, so this is the main purpose. Same thing was that story which my friend messaged me about Ravan asking boon from Shiva. So Ravan was great devotee. He was he was great pandit and all. He was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. He worshipped Lord Shiva for years altogether. He was supposed to get that boon. Okay, he was supposed to get that boon. No big deal. Okay, so this is the same thing was with Hiranyakashyap and all. So these people, although they were demons, they performed some activities, and they got the boon. Okay, so this is the message behind all these stories, that perform some actions, get into some actions. Even demon can get results of actions. Why not you? Okay, so this is what I understand is the main thing about this story. These stories where demons get some boon out of from the gods and all, fine. It is just to motivate us to put actions rather than getting lost in the story. We should learn from that story and start putting our actions. Then it may be more beneficial. And there is another question. I think we have time, and that we can take another question. Right. Mm. What is the best way to guide children without stifling their individuality? Again, it is more astrological question the person has asked. What is the best way to guide children without stifling their individual? As per astrology, can a person look at their own fifth house to see the best way to relate to teach, guide, raise children without the ego of being a guide, teacher, guide who is above the student? Basically, person wants to know that what is the best way to guide children without stifling their individuality. uh, it is very difficult in a way. Okay, in the present scenario, if we don't take the astrological things like fifth house or Jupiter and all in general sense, okay, it is very difficult because parents want to enforce their individuality on their children. Parents like to, okay, as soon as the child takes birth, he is supposed to be told that okay, you belong to this religion, you belong to that caste, you belong to this community. And it has started manipulating with the individuality of the child. So in the current scenario where we are living, it is very difficult. It's, it is difficult or very difficult because it is difficult for parents to let go of their ego. Okay, if parents can let go of their ego, okay, because who is giving children individuality, who is giving children a separate ego? Okay, it is parents, it is families, it is schools, colleges. If they let go of their ego, okay, if parents have this guts to say that okay fine, we are of this community, we are of this religion, but there are 300 religions in the world. Okay, if there are 300 plus religions in the world, we are not going to tell you what is your religion. Study all these religions, whichever religion you feel connected to, you can follow that religion. And if you don't feel connected to, then okay, make your own religion, not a big deal. If if parents can be that honest with the child, then this type of situation can happen where child's individuality can be intact, and parents can still guide the person. But this is really difficult for parents or societies to do that. Okay, every father feels that okay, I am the best for my child, and I no one can guide my child better than me. Every mother feels the same. Okay, every teacher feels the same, that okay, I have got this job for of a few thousand rupees. Now I can teach whatever I want. I am the best teacher in the world. So everyone has their ego, and they are supplying their ego to the child. Okay, so this is why it becomes really difficult to have this type of scenario where child can be brought up by the parents and the society without stifling the ego. Okay, but it is a process. Okay, understand what I'm saying, that what we actually need to go through as an individual in our life. We take birth as a child, innocent child and all, not having an ego and all. Then we develop the ego through our education system, through our conditionings and all. We go through the ego trip. Okay, and then when we reach around 30, 35, 40 and all, then we start coming back. Okay, we start coming back to our innocence. This process is necessary. What is happening up to this point, up to 35, 40, here a about turn, u-turn is necessary. From here onwards, 35, 40 onwards, it is important that we should come back to our like normal innocent lifestyle. That's why, like when Jesus was asked, who will inherit your kingdom of God, and he said people who are childlike. He didn't say who are children. He didn't say that. Where Jesus said who are childlike, who are like a child. So obviously, first thing, child will not inherit it. A child will not inherit the kingdom of God. Who will inherit? The person who has matured enough, and then he has become innocent again. So this journey is very necessary. Actually, like developing this ego is also necessary, and then letting go of the ego is also necessary. Okay. Osho says that we can divide life into two parts: 35 plus 35 before 35, after 35. Till 35, follow your ego. Okay, achieve everything what you ego wanted to achieve. Okay, till 35, do that, and then start dissolving your ego and reach to the like initial point again, where you were an innocent person. Become childlike again. Okay, that is the main purpose of all the spiritual pursuits and all. That's why I also say that okay, first follow your materialistic desires. Do everything whatever you want to do materialistically possible, and then when you achieve everything materialistic possible, then you automatically come back into the spiritual life. Okay, then you automatically move towards spirituality. Okay, so this is the way. First of all, that is very difficult. The main question, that without stifling the individuality of the child, how to educate them, it is very difficult, almost impossible in this day and age, in the circumstances where we are living. because everyone is having his own ego, father, mother, teacher and all. They will they will throw their ego on the child, and child will develop in an egoistic personality. Okay, that is obvious. So if that can happen, that if a parent has no desire to throw his ego on the child, that is rarest of rare case. Okay, that is rarest of rare case. Like Osho got that type of upbringing. Till 7 years of age, he stayed with his grandparents, and his grandparents didn't tell anything, that which religion you belong to, which caste you belong to, which is your god, nothing. No, this type of education. They told him to explore and find out, learn on your own. Okay, this is rarest of rare case. Okay, where he and the child was given all the independence to explore life on his own and find out, rather than asking anyone else. That was the first that was the only thing they told him, that unless and until you yourself find the answer, don't believe in anyone, no matter, even if we are telling you something, don't believe in unless and until you find out some answer. This is rarest of rare case. Okay, this is the rarest of rare case. It is not possible. It is very difficult. I cannot say that not possible. It is very difficult that and the parents or the family or the society or the teachers give that much of independence to the child. Okay, it is very rare. So we have the second option, that okay, now till 35, go on your ego trip. Okay, but after that, when you achieve most majority of your things till 35 years of age, you achieve your career also, you achieve your money also, you achieve your family life also, and you start feeling empty, that okay, I achieved all these things, not happiness. Now it is time to take U-turn and coming back to that innocent child state, childlike state, where you had no personality, no individuality. Okay, no ego, I should say. Child also has personality or individuality, but child doesn't have an ego. Okay, so get into that U-turn and return back to the primal state. Okay, this is the only way which we have to go through, unless and until we get in that rare circumstance where every child is given that opportunity. Okay, which is very rare. I again say. uh, Right. If we look at astrologically, like person is asking, can a person look at their own fifth house to see the best way to relate to, teach, guide, raise children, without the ego of being a teacher, guide who is above the student? Again, it is very rare for a teacher not to have ego that I am your teacher. For a father not to have ego that I am your father, I am the one who has given you birth. For a mother to not to have ego that I am your mother. It is very rare to have this type of personality. If it develops over a long period of time, if society accepts that type of thinking, it is great, well and good. But I don't see it happening in like any time sooner, not in next 1,000 years. Okay, I can guarantee. Okay, so this is the thing. Uh, so yeah, fifth house can represent if someone can be a good teacher or guide or a counselor, especially if Jupiter is ruling it, or Jupiter is very well placed in chart. Okay, then that person can be a good guide or counselor, but is still not up to this level, that the teacher is not enforcing his personality, his individuality, his ego over the child. It is very rare. Okay, so yeah, I hope it was useful. Thanks for your questions. I think I covered all the questions. So if someone has more questions, they are more than welcome to send them. I will be trying to like take them in next session. Okay, take care.